Hey everyone, Margarita here. This is episode number 7 of my severe carbon monoxide poisoning. So I had left off on January 11th, 2018 with me becoming overloaded with carbon monoxide poisoning, which was technically called delayed neurologic sequela because the reaction to it was 4 days delayed, which can be anywhere up to 2 months. So I woke up like that, didn't really know what it was right away. Since my shifts were on the weekends only, I worked Friday night, Saturday double, Sunday morning. My shift Friday night was only 4 hours. I decided to go ahead and go in and take some pain pills and just try to get through, not knowing it was the restaurant causing this. I really did not feel good. My head hurt extremely bad, like past 10 out of 10. I could barely talk. I was experiencing so many symptoms, and I had already had a personality change due to the amount of pain I was in and the way my brain was and how I woke up like that. And the people around me at work when I got there, they could tell that there was something wrong. And I did notify management right away that something was wrong. Right away, they began the cover-up. They knew that they had caused it, and they knew they had ongoing ventilation system issues, which would then result in carbon monoxide issues. So they had known, and I was thinking, like, at this time, I was supposed to have been back to my main form of income over a year prior to this. It should have never stopped. And now it's been like a year since it had stopped almost. There was a handful of times I had done it, I think, a few months prior to this. And I could not do it. And I was not back to work yet. And this was not my primary form of income. And this had been going on for almost 2 years where I was not making the right money. At this point, now I needed every dollar from this place because I couldn't get back to work properly. And I felt so unwell, and I didn't have any explanation for any of this. And I could barely move, function, stand up, get a load of laundry done. I don't know. I couldn't do anything. I was just laying there. And so by then, when I woke up like this, I'm in an extreme state. At no time should I've ever been working or trying to do anything or standing. The only thing I should have been doing was seeking medical treatment. It wouldn't have mattered. They still wouldn't have found it in my system. Even if I sought treatment that day, it wouldn't have been found. So at this point, I need every dollar. I'm trying to get in there, because they've caused my financial situation to become a problem when it was never a problem previously. They made the problem happen with the long-term effects of the carbon monoxide and me slowly being taken out. And instead of getting pieces of my life back, the opposite was happening. So they had caused the situation I was in and me to be stuck there. And now I couldn't get out of there. And now something's terribly wrong. And I need every penny from this place I can get. So I went in there not realizing it was the place. And I managed to get through those 4 hours, and I went and I did the double the next day, and I took whatever pills I had with me, and I barely got through and barely got through that weekend and did it anyway. And the following Monday and Tuesday, my symptoms were worse. So again, delayed because another large exposure had happened over the weekend, me not knowing yet. And then I went back that following weekend and did the same thing. And it was basically where these symptoms could not have gotten any worse. And then they got worse. And, so that happened for 2 weekends in a row, me trying to figure out what was going on, still just writing down everything I'm doing daily, trying to figure it out. Me writing everything down did narrow it down in the end. And then everything came out in the building and the people around me and what had happened during the week when I was gone. So all of this stuff eventually came out of people's mouths that were there during, when all this was going on. So I did go to the chiropractor, and I did this once a week for probably about 2 months from the time I woke up like this. I had went that day and I said something about my head hurts really bad. It's like something I'd never felt before. He knew I didn't have like a headache history. So I don't know. I mean, he knew something was wrong. He could tell something was wrong because I had been seeing him since 1999. That was, I guess you could call, my only primary doctor. I had a chiropractor the entire time, and that was it. And the chiropractor keeps everything in place and functioning so your body functions properly. So you shouldn't need medical attention. Medical system is what causes the problems that cause the problems that you need attention for. So it's like a giant revolving door, if you don't already know that. So, I'd only been seeing this guy the majority of the 20 years previous, and he's seeing something's wrong. But that was like the first day. And then I came back a week later and he was like, still, like, there's something else going on. Something's wrong. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I was so confused. My head hurt so bad. And he's just like, it shouldn't be hurting that bad. And I'm like, I don't know. So I seen him a couple times and he was recognizing there was a serious problem because he had known me all that time. So he could tell there was something wrong. I did go to Sam's Club. So this is like a couple weekends after, then it's slowly getting worse. This Monday, this Tuesday, I ate avocado that Monday. It made me violently ill, which it had happened to me a handful or two of times previously. And it did not start until 2008 or 2009. And then it has not been happening recently, but I don't really eat avocados. And if I do, I pick them and buy them and prepare them and wash them myself. So, that has not been happening, recently in the last couple of years, but it had happened when I was very healthy as well, just with an avocado. So I don't know what caused that or what caused it to stop, after all this time, but that was happening to me like once every year and a half or so. And that happened the night before. And I'd been up all night violently vomiting. I slept in my closet. It was uncontrollable. It goes on for like 10 hours and it happens about 12 to 15 hours after you eat it. And that had happened. So by the time I'm seeing the chiropractor, like I had spent all night, I was barely alive. I was so sick. I couldn't drive. I couldn't stand up. Like I was just so sick. And this is not like a virus or a bug of some sort. There was something terribly wrong. So we ended up going to Sam's Club and I was trying to lift whatever it was I was buying. I couldn't lift it. And we ended up coming back home and I think I was supposed to go to parent teacher conferences or something, but I was so unwell that I knew I wasn't making it there and I didn't go. So, I actually went upstairs and laid in my bed and I could feel it getting worse and worse. And my brain's just swelling and swelling and there's nowhere for it to go. So it continued to swell. I laid in my bed. About 4 hours went by where it's just swelling up profusely and not stopping and I can't get it under control. And I'd taken a couple different things. One was a migraine pill. I had messaged a doctor something about a migraine because I've never had one before. So I wasn't really sure what it was. I was assuming that's what it would be called. And so I ended up taking a migraine pill, but that's not even what that pill was for. So it didn't really do anything. And I also took a Motrin 800. It didn't matter. Neither one really did anything. My brain just kept swelling and swelling. Really, I needed oxygen and I couldn't even move off the bed. I could barely move because I had severe lack of oxygen to my brain and all of my cells at this point. I was so deprived of oxygen that like you have to have oxygen in your cells to function, to move about and do things. And I could not do that. So I was just laying there with my brain swelling and swelling and, different people in my house were coming into the room at different times and I'm just kind of talking out loud, trying to figure it out. And then at the same time, I'm realizing this isn't going to stop and I'm going to die. And I didn't have anything allocated out financially, like with the life insurance and what they're to do with it if I die. No one knows how to run what I run and do what I do. So there was no instructions left written for anyone to figure this out. They would have eventually lost the house and blew the money is what would have happened if I actually would have died that day. So after coming back, I did get all of this in order, because now I've died twice and came back, but I did immediately after that. As soon as I got well enough, I was not well. As soon as I was able to at least get something on paper, I did. And then I redid it twice since then, because there's been a lot of chaos, conflict, deception, manipulation, and such going on with those around me that I ended up having to push the people who would receive the funds to a different level and they would have to control it for my kids because they're still all being manipulated to some degree and the younger one isn't old enough to take care of any of that. So I did have to change this around numerous times. But in that moment, that's all I was thinking was I'm going to die. Nothing's in order. My kids they're going to lose the house. They're not going to have anything. My younger one, he's probably not even going to survive without me. I wasn't sure what exactly was going on with him and what was wrong with him. He wasn't extreme at the same time I was. His became a little more extreme a little bit down the line. by then I'd already known what the problem was, what was causing it. So at least like I had answers by the time his was extreme, but I was still in an extreme manner myself, just at a different degree with it, and had been like that for quite some time. So, in that moment, he was not in extreme distress the way I was, although there was ongoing issues. My daughter and my baby did come into my room at one point, and I did say goodbye to them. I knew I was going to die. And told my older son, he had like walked by at some point. I said, you need to start praying. And he was just like, why? And he walked off. So no one was really comprehending this was as severe as it was. I needed oxygen. My brain was swelling and it wasn't going to stop. And I knew it. And I knew I was going to die. And I did die. I died for 4 hours in my bed. I came back on my own. And the deal I made before I became unconscious was, I'll do anything to stay here. I was talking directly to God. And I said, I would do anything to stay here for this baby. He's not going to make it without me. The other two will be okay, but this one probably won't be. And he's too little. I need to stay here for him. I'll do anything to stay here. And then I lost consciousness. But when I came back, it took probably over a year from this point forward, but I eventually figured out what had happened that day. I'll get more into that in the future, because at this point I'm not aware of any of this stuff to the degree I am today and what actually went on during all of this time. I have more information on that now that I'm a certain point, recovered, and a lot of this has been removed from my system. So, there's other factors that were involved in all this, and I'll get way more into this later. But shortly before this happened to me, I actually had a black-eyed kids experience. And I, at this time, had no idea who the black-eyed kids were. And it was a few days after I would woke up with my brain pressed against my skull. And it was actually at the place where the building that this all occurred in is where I had the experience. So it took a couple years from then for me to even realize what that was, what had happened that day. I wasn't even aware there was such thing as the black-eyed kids. Oh, I'd never heard of it. My older one is the one who educated me on this after I had brought this up down the line. I don't even know how I came across the story in the first place, of the first story I had read about it. And that's when I realized I had a similar experience. But it's not known. I didn't post this anywhere. I don't have social media. I'll get more into what happened with that situation in the future down the line when I start figuring out the spirituality portion of what I'd been going through. Because at this time I was completely unaware. Now at this point I've died and came back. I'm in my bed. I can't sit up. I can't scream. Every nerve in my head hurts so bad. It's all radiating. Every sound hurts extremely bad. I can't even talk. My own voice hurts. Every noise my mouth is making hurts extremely bad. And every sound that every person around me is making hurts extremely bad. And this is why kids with autism have that same problem. They have neurotoxins in their brain. That's what's causing that. It hurts really, really bad. That's why they have those earmuffs. So I stayed stuck like that for a couple years. It was that extreme for over a year, a little over a year. And I stayed messed up like that for a couple years. So, it was actually like 3 years, because those nerves were directly connected to the carbon monoxide that was lodged inside my brain and knotted up. So that it was a direct connection. So once I felt those particles and those knots start to clear a couple years into treatment, that's when that problem started to clear. But the nerves in my brain stayed that way for all of that time. And I was in extreme physical distress day in and day out without relief. Whether or not anybody could tell, because this became my new normal. Nobody could tell that that's how it was. But from that day forward, that's how it was. Now, when I woke up after the brain swelling episode, everything had broke through. My brain had completely exploded internally. There were several inches of space between my brain and my skull. The back left side was now sagging and throbbing, not just throbbing, but sagging and throbbing. And all of the carbon monoxide, it had broken through the blood-brain barrier is what that feeling was. And then it flooded my entire system and was flowing up and down in my entire system for years until I had cleared the majority of that carbon monoxide, years into treatment. So I stayed that way day in and day out. There was no relief from it ever. Like I said, living in hell, and there's no other word to describe it. But that's what happened to me, and I stayed that way, and I made my way down the stairs. I was scared to yell. I was scared to move. I couldn't use my phone. I couldn't even see the screen of my phone. I could barely text anything, even if I did know where my phone was at this point. But I couldn't string sentences together because now my brain had exploded. There's lots of carbon monoxide everywhere, and I'm just overloaded with it. and I'm suffocating at the same time. And I could not describe what had just happened. And I came downstairs where my ex was playing video games, kind of right where I'm sitting right now. There's a different chair here. And I'll come back and talk about more of what happened after that incident. Thanks. Bye.